Hi, welcome back. If you had a chance to watch our show recently, we've been trying to bring you lots of alternatives in healthcare, and this show will be no different. One of the biggest things approaching most of us in our healthcare is the question of toxins. Our grandparents probably dealt more with bacteria and viruses and maybe the odd time getting hit by a horse. But what we're dealing with now in our environment, in our food chain and in our cities is toxins. And the way to detoxify is varied and sometimes controversial. And I hope today that you have a chance to form an opinion on what you're about to see and possibly even use it. I'd like to introduce today Christina Sisu. She is a certified nutritionist and also a facilitator, workshop facilitator, as well as a specialized kinesiologist. Has been in private practice for the past 20 years and also the author of 2 books, and we'll be discussing her recent publication during the show. In the meantime, though, you are about to see me, Cameron Moffat, getting a foot bath, an ion cleansing foot bath. So you're watching Choices, and I hope you find it enjoyable. Welcome to the show. So, Christina.
Hey.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for bringing your equipment.
Yes, it's cool.
Why don't we get started with the bath?
All right.
And then you can explain to the audience what it is you're doing and why you're doing it.
Okay. So the very first thing we're going to do before we start the ion cleanse is we're going to put salt in the water. And we're just going to sprinkle this salt in. This creates the negative and positive ions in the water. And now we're going to start the machine. And there you go. You're starting already. And now I gauge the salt level by this a bar here, which you obviously can't see on camera, and I'm going to add, just going to leave it for a few minutes, and then I'm going to add a little bit more salt if I need. So this is like walking on a beach. It's creating that same environment and positive, negative ions. Okay. And what that does is it neutralizes the acid and tissues in the body and allows it to detoxify.
Okay.
And I think a big part of what happens is that it alkalizes the body. And you and I both know how critical that is.
Many of us are actually more acid than what we should be.
Absolutely.
If you're eating a typical diet, folks, of wheat and coffee and alcohol, sugar, you're going to be more acidic. And in the acidic environment, you're not going to maintain as much health, are you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really saw that in my own personal experience. I was quite ill in the early 90s. I had an immune disorder that destroys the lining of the bladder. Okay. And it's called interstitial cystitis. And the key thing with that was to keep an alkaline diet. Right. So I ate lots of carrots. I was actually known as the carrot lady because I turned orange. Okay. And lots of spinach and lots of those kind of things. And so if I had had a foot bath, right, this would have really sped up my recovery. And I did recover from that illness.
So you didn't use that during your...
I didn't know anything about it then. Okay. This was in the early 90s when I was diagnosed.
Okay.
And it took me about 2 years to cure that, and mainly with lots of some energy work and again self-reflection, but a lot of it was alkaline diet.
Okay, so you'd mentioned that you've had a bit of a personal illness. When did you finally come in contact with this machine?
Actually, not that long ago. I left my private practice in the mid 2000s and became a flight attendant. Okay. And I was a flight attendant for 8 years. And if anybody knows, in the airplane, that's a pretty toxic environment.
Yes, it is.
Yes, electromagnetic fields. And so a friend of mine had this machine. And so I thought, wow, that sounds really great. So I bought one for myself. Mm-hmm. And I started using it. And every time I had like a long pairing, a pairing means a bunch of flying together, right, I would come home and do an ion. And I think that's one of the reasons I stayed healthy and well during it, okay, was because of this machine. Okay.
Now, do you use this in a practice now?
Yes, I do. Yes. Okay. I just opened up an office. I'm so excited. Yes. On Burnside, 661 Burnside Avenue. Okay. And that is where I'm practicing now with this as well as my energy work that I do. Right. And I'm really happy to bring this because I left WestJet, so.
You mentioned you brought your Rife machine. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. Okay. So let's talk about this though. What is the focus of it? You mentioned alkalining it.
Right.
Right.
That's the main focus. Okay. And I've read lots of research that also shows that people have been using it. There's an oncologist specialist that was using it for the effects of chemotherapy. Okay. And I think you've had lots of experience too in what it's done for children with autism.
I mentioned to Christina before the show started that when I was training down in San Diego at a clinic that specializes in osteopathic medicine for children. A lot of their cases were in fact autism, and many of the children were using this bath at the clinic. And I sat through probably 15, 20 of these sessions. And I was surprised initially how each child had a slightly different color.
Yes.
It was never it wasn't like everybody turned black, everybody turned green or whatever.
Yes.
It was different. And I was then intrigued by why the difference. And I was led to believe then that because of the different toxicities in the individual, different organs give off different colors.
Right. There's some controversy about how much, whether that's accurate. In my own personal experience from doing it with many people, I have noticed that folks that have lots of issues with liver, that it tends to be more black.
Okay.
I have noticed people that have more arthritis issues and issues with joints, it tends to be more orange. There is a chart that comes with the equipment that I bought. Again, I just loosely use that, but from experience, I've seen the difference.
Okay.
And I've also noticed when people, I had actually one gentleman that came like 5 times in a row, and I noticed that by the 5th time it was pretty clear. Even he said, wow. So there has to be something to that, that as you're detoxifying more and more, then the water was clearer.
Clear, right. So who would be somebody that would benefit from this?
I think anybody, except if you have a pacemaker, anybody that has any major heart issues, you don't want to, because we're using electrical equipment here, so you don't want that. Anybody with any kind of open sores in their feet, you definitely don't want to do that.
And who do you typically see coming in to use this?
Again, I've been doing it more personally with lots of my friends and family, and now that I'm opening up a practice, I think it's good for any, especially if you want to detoxify, if you've had some kind of illness. Like for me personally, if I had had it when I was ill, it probably would have cut that time maybe in a quarter of how much I had to do with nutrition and all that to detoxify. And like I've noticed for myself when I've been flying a lot, I feel so much lighter after, you sleep better, you just feel clear. That's a key thing I find, clear mental, mental capabilities. You just feel more on track. And
I'm looking forward to that then. A good night's sleep and waking up clear-headed tomorrow.
Yeah, that's good. It's really important that it's done properly though as well. One of the things that happens is that a lot of your electrolytes are released, so you want to make sure you put that back in. So typically what we'll do after we've done the show is I'll give you some homeopathic mineral salts. You put them under your tongue, or you can use, there's like an energy drinks that you can use that help to put the electrolytes back in the body. And it's absolutely critical to drink lots and lots of water.
Afterwards.
Yeah, and again, water is important no matter what. But especially when you're doing something as detoxifying like this, then you want to make sure you've got lots of water.
Now, speaking of detoxifying, one of the things I always find a bit of a challenge in my practice is how much can you detoxify a person at any given time? What is their body capable of? And really, it's a bit of a guessing game. You have to go very gently, but in fact, the person also wants to feel the effects of the detox. Can this detoxify too fast or alkaline too quickly?
I don't think so. I don't think you can ever alkaline too quickly. I think it's important not to do, I wouldn't do one more than once a week. That's typically what I do with myself and with lots of folks that I've been supporting. And again, I think it's important that people come regularly for the beginning. So I always recommend 3. And then you can also see the difference yourself.
So 1 a week for 3 weeks?
1 a week for 3 weeks, and then you can really notice it in the water, but you can also start to feel the difference yourself. So,
all right. And what about any side effects afterwards? Am I going to be lightheaded or?
Not typically. Typically, you're just going to feel a little lighter, just more relaxed. You'll sleep better, again, because you're alkaline. So again, and one of the things that's really important about this is when you alkalize the body, you let go of stress.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
So stress dissipates. So that's why people feel lighter, more relaxed and calm, because you're alkaline.
So even the walking in the forest after a rain shower, the ions, that's what's making us feel so relaxed?
That's it, absolutely. I love going after a flight. If I'd had a long flight, I typically would go to Island View and I would take my shoes off and I would walk, and sometimes if I'd done a red eye, I'd go have a nap on the beach. And it's amazing how much better I'd wake up and think, wow, that really worked.
Yeah, it does. So this is more or less mimicking that same kind of experience.
Yes, it is. Absolutely mimicking that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Rife machine.
Oh, right. Okay. So Dr. Rife created these. They're typically you can do them with the ray here, or you can do them with the bars. He created this machine. It's frequency therapy in the early 30s. And he claimed that he had the cure for cancer. And what the Rife does is it has frequency, so it emanates certain very low grades of electrical frequencies that will kill whatever the pathogen is. So there's a whole chart here that comes with it that has all the different codes. And so if it's arthritis or cancer, all different types of cancer, then I would put the code into this machine. And then you hold the bars, depends on the code, 5 or 10 minutes.
Right, right.
And it's something that does need to be done. You've had some experience with this as well, from my understanding. And you do need to do it fairly frequently.
Right. My
own personal experience is I had a really severe case of bone spurs. And I was flying at the time, and it was really affecting my job. And I thought, again, sometimes you have to think, I have this machine. And so I used this 5 times and totally gone.
Okay. Can you explain how? So I can see vibrational energy killing a pathogen, a bacteria, because the bacteria is living, and it would be then. So how could the body, is it inducing itself to heal itself, do you think? Because a bone spur is a bone spur. I mean, it's a piece of bone.
Right. I think that's part of it, but I think what happens is there's a frequency to everything, and what it does, there's a frequency, so there's a frequency to that. So what it does is it dissipates that frequency and neutralizes it, from my understanding.
Sure, bone is living tissue. It's going to be
That's
vibrating.
right.
It will be vibrating.
Vibrates. And I was absolutely amazed and so relieved because it was really starting to affect whether I could go to work.
Right. Now, the Rife doesn't assess, right?
No.
You have to know in advance what the particular pathogen is,
Absolutely,
or the bone spur, or whatever it is.
There are some machines out there that assess. This machine doesn't do that. This is mainly an ion, but it also has the Rife technology attached to it. There's some pretty fancy Rife technology out there.
There is, yes.
And I was very fortunate that this came with the machine. So
I was treated by a gentleman in Vancouver using what's called the ETA scan, and it's a very advanced version of this, where it actually not only assesses the issue, but also then treats it. But it's the same vibrational medicine, bioenergetic medicine.
Yeah, it's very, very cool stuff, and I'm just quite fascinated with all. And I actually learned about this even a long time ago in Florida. Some friends of mine were really into all the modern, and I tried it then a long time ago, but I had forgotten about it until I actually got the machine.
So are you planning on then offering the Rife services as well?
What I typically do is I will offer them the Rife because it takes 5 to 10 minutes while I go set up the water and all the. And so that seems to really work very well. And then they'll hold the Rife, and I'll go get all the other technical stuff here sorted out.
So I know some people that have used the Rife machine for, or the ETA for Lyme's disease. And in this one case, very successfully, he was clear of Lyme's within 6 months, which is unheard of traditionally using the more conventional treatments. But what this individual did notice, though, they were on the machine for probably about 40 minutes. And at the end of that, for the next 48 hours, they felt pretty wiped out as all the killing off of the Lyme spirochet, the bacterium that's being killed off.
For sure.
He would feel quite hit from it, quite worn down. Would a person experience that with 5 or 10 minutes of the Rife?
No, not usually with 5 or 10 minutes. I've noticed when I did my own, and I did them quite frequently, you sometimes will feel a sort of a little tingling in your hands. And sometimes I feel tired after, and again, I think that's the body releasing and shifting things.
Sure.
But he probably had a different machine that was, I think from what we talked about, there was a more powerful machine.
It was, yes.
Yeah,
it was,
so that's probably why he felt that way.
In this case, the chair was actually the receptor. The chair had been lined with the copper, and so it was almost a full body Rife experience.
Okay, that's very different than.
Yeah, it's quite a bit more than just holding the rods.
Right. Yeah. But it sounds very powerful. There's so many things out there now, isn't it? I mean, it's just amazing.
So tell us a little bit about your book.
Okay.
Yes.
My book is How to Get Out of Your Own Way. And I'm pretty excited about this. And again, I have written a book before, The Food and the Emotional Connection. Had no intention of writing another book,
Right.
but it downloaded, and it was something I was moved to actually do.
Okay.
And so I'm really pleased to offer this because it's actually like it's kind of like a bit of an instruction guide. There are some techniques in here. I call them transformers.
Right.
There's 40 of them, and it shows you different techniques that you can do. So I thought we'd play with some of them.
Okay.
And
Before we
show
start,
some of them.
what's the intention behind the transformers?
The intention of the transformers is to shift energy. So this really talks about we create our own reality. And we quite often are in our own way by what we're thinking, by awfulizing about things, by focusing on the negative things instead of looking at the positives.
Right.
And a lot of that comes from our background, from our ancestors, from our own thinking, from when we were children. Yeah,
Sure.
from childhood trauma, wide variety of things. So I wanted to give a toolbox, and that's what this is. The transformers are toolboxes. And they're set up like a card almost. So there's like pictures. So you would flip to a page.
Okay.
And that would say, oh, okay, group activities. Maybe I need to join some kind of group activity. Maybe that's what I need to shift my energy. So it's all about shifting energy.
Okay.
Some of it's about my own story, how I shifted my own energy, and how I'm still shifting my own energy.
Sure. Hopefully, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's a personal experience, but it's also inspiration about how other people have shifted their
So it's
experience.
very practical then on
Very
change.
practical, inspirational, and I'm hoping very helpful for somebody to move forward in their lives and realize the magnificence that we are.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So the transformers then are, can you maybe demonstrate a little bit for
Yeah.
us? Yeah. What
Well,
would be?
there's one that I call the 3 thumps. I've been doing energy work and know about the meridians and stuff for about 20 years. And I've seen that shifting just, and that, just playing with our meridians and different acupressure points
Sure.
can make a huge shift.
Absolutely.
So the one that I use is called the 3 thumps. So you're thumping right here.
Right.
Yeah. These are the kidney points right here. So I'm not
So-
going to thump because I got the mic.
Yeah, you got them. Yes. Maybe everybody at home, if you want to give this a try, what are some of the effects that people would feel at home if they do this with you?
Okay, so sometimes you'd feel a little lighter. You may yawn, you may take a deep breath, and you've shifted some energy.
Okay.
So the other one is you're going to thump these really, really hard, not being gentle.
A tight fist or
a fairly tight fist like that.
Okay.
What you're doing also is the carotid artery is underneath here, so you're also bringing oxygen into the brain. So that
Okay.
really helps. And these are kidney points, so it helps to balance the body from side to side.
Okay.
Then the other one here is the middle one, and this is your thymus gland, which is very, very important.
Right.
And we do it in a rhythm of in love with me, and love with me, and love with me,
Almost
and
like a
love
heartbeat.
with me. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, so beat to your heart.
Yeah, in love with me, in love with me, in love with me. And then these ones are your spleen points. They tend to be your worry points. When we worry a lot, the spleen is what gets stressed out. So these ones, they're like 4 inch is underneath the armpit,
Okay.
and you're thumping them just like a chicken. Just like you're doing a chicken point here.
No clucking.
No clucking. No, you don't need to
Clucking,
cluck.
good, okay.
And then you just keep doing them until you start to see a shift.
So you keep cycling around.
keep
you
cycling
go back to
around.
the side ones.
Yep, and then just keep
then the
doing
thumb.
each one.
Okay.
One of the things that I have noticed that's really powerful with them is if you're having an allergic reaction, oh my gosh, these are so powerful.
Really?
I was sitting with a friend and we were at her place and she had lots of dust and mold in her place, and I was totally stuffed up. So I just started thumping, doing
Right.
all my 3 thumps. And within 5-10 minutes, she could even tell my voice was clear again. I wasn't stuffed up, and she said, "Oh my goodness, does that ever work?"
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And
so-
mold is an issue here in Victoria.
Yes.
In a lot of the homes, especially the homes that were built previous to the mid 80s.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a very powerful tool. The other one that's really powerful is called the emotional stress release, and they're acupressure points. And this is your nervous system right here, acupressure TWs. So you put your thumbs here.
That's the nervous system points.
Yes, right.
Okay. So I'll do this with you then.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right. And then these fingers here, right there,
Yep.
on the frontal eminences. They're sort of those
right in
protrusions
there,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then your middle fingers here, you just land right here on the top of your head.
Okay.
Very light pressure. Almost let go of pressure.
Okay.
Yeah. And then what you would do is you would calculate, like, what is the stressor? You think of the stressor. Is it on a scale of 1 to 10? Is it a 10? Is it 6, 5, whatever?
Okay.
And then you would calculate it, and then you would just hold the points. If you're doing it on yourself, you always want to be lying down. This looks really awkward and uncomfortable. So you would be lying down on a bed.
Okay.
What it does is it takes the trigger away.
Okay.
And I did corporate work in Ontario for about 10 years, and I used to use this in my workshops.
Well, certainly a good environment to help de-stress.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this one lady I said, how are you doing? She says, oh, I've done with that problem now. I'm number 2. It's like, okay. So it can be a very powerful way of moving through some of the emotional stresses that we have.
Now, is any of this in the book as well?
All is in the book.
All in the book. Okay. So where
Yes.
can people actually purchase that book?
You can purchase it through my website.
Okay, which will be up at the end of the
Which is
show.
gonna be on, yes. It's also on Amazon as well.
Okay.
And chapters. And yeah.
Excellent. Okay, let's turn back to the feet.
Okay.
Now,
Ooh.
I don't know if anybody can see at home, but the water's turned kind of yellowy, and there's also some strange-looking stuff floating on the surface. Now, are you going to tell me that's come out of my body?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Well, and I also think that what happens here is that with the salt and the ions, with electricity, it creates that.
Okay.
And you obviously, this is pretty clean compared to what I've normally seen.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, this is quite clean.
Okay.
Quite often I see like big black patches all over here. Like, this is actually unusual.
Oh, okay.
You must be doing something very, very good.
I hope so. Something.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
yes, because
except for
I
a
was
few-
looking at it and I was thinking, oh boy, he's very clean.
So, what do you think the yellow? What would you call that? Slime or something on the
Well,
top?
it's just the foam, and again, it's just the tissues, acids, and the fatty acids that coming out.
Wow.
But yours is very, very clean compared to what I'm used to
What do
seeing.
you do with this water when you're done with it?
Dump it.
Does the Environmental Canada know that?
That's a good point. I always put it in the toilet. What's interesting, though, I want to share is that sometimes, this obviously is quite clean, is that there's quite an odor to it. If somebody's really got some major stuff going on, I've noticed that there can be an odor.
Back in Ontario years ago, there was a lady that had a spa set up on the German medical model. So it wasn't spa to feel good, it was spa for medical treatments. And I went and
Right.
got a treatment, I was curious, and she wrapped me in some lava packs. There were lava slabs, like it was basically a lava sandwich with me in the middle. And then she wrapped me in cotton and left me there for half an hour, and I sipped water. When she took the lava off me and unwrapped me, I could not believe the odor. And I said to her, I apologize about the odor. And she said, oh, this smells like nothing compared to people who are dealing with cancer, who do come to the clinic.
Yes.
That has, she said, an unbelievably nauseous smell.
Yes, yeah.
So there is some truth to, we do let go out of our body of these toxins and of these odors and
Yeah, absolutely.
poisons.
Well, I must say you're
I'm
doing.
sorry to disappoint you. I'll drink more wine or something before the next time we do this.
And we just have 2 more minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
no,
again, how long does this typically last?
the full detox is 25 minutes.
So if someone came in to see you, what would they be booking in for?
It usually takes us about 45 minutes because, and by the time we talk and get everybody set up and
Right.
they want to do the rife, so it can be anywhere up to 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah.
And you're saying about one a week.
I'd say 1 a week to start for sure, and then once you're feeling that you're kind of cleansed and you're feeling much better, and you're seeing some symptomology, disappearing, then you know that you maybe just do maintenance.
So somebody could call you then if they're starting to feel a cold coming on. If they're
Absolutely.
they might call and say, I need to get in if I could and
Yeah.
get this cold before it gets,
That's a good way. I mean, that's why I used it when I was a flight attendant,
yeah.
because I think I would have been very sick if I hadn't, because
yeah.
it's so tough on the body with all the just the air itself, but
Yes.
also with late nights and
Sure,
early morning
time
and different
changes.
time zones and stuff like that.
zones,
So,
yes.
yeah,
Well, this has been fascinating. Thank you very much. I'm curious to see how much more yellow it's, because as we're sitting here, it's getting even more yellow.
it's starting to get a little bit, but it's very light.
Yeah.
very
Good.
light. And the other thing sometimes is the water where you are affects it.
Have a bit of a difference, yeah.
Yeah.
Christina, thank you very much for coming on the show. This
You're
has been
very
delightful,
welcome.
and I thank you for the opportunity to try this foot bath. I've watched them before, but I've never actually had one. So, thank you for that, and
I'm
good luck
delighted
with
to
your
be
book.
here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's a workbook, so it's useful for people. So
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
So folks, thank you very much for watching Choices. Hopefully this gives you some ideas on different ways of dealing with your health, as is the purpose of this show. Coming up next session, we have a lady coming on who is producing a line of skincare products that are so pure you can actually eat them, which is ultimately what you should be putting on your skin and nothing toxic. So stay tuned for next month's show. It should be interesting, although I do not promise to actually eat any of her products, although you might be able to. I'm not going to. On behalf of the crew here at Choices and everyone that watches, thank you very much for coming on and watching us. I hope this actually adds some benefit and some hopefulness to your healthcare. My name's Cameron Moffat again, and until next time, stay healthy. Thank you.